Nonsense Comics. Wolfgang's Complete and Total Nonsense Comics. Wolfgang's Complete and Total Nonsense Comics.
This is a serious trigger warning. This is not a joke. This show discusses topics from all aspects of human life, some beautiful, some wretchedly awful. If you have an aversion to anything in life that makes you appreciate and need trigger warnings as much as you might want and need water on a hot day, we understand. We are both on the autism spectrum and have suffered immense trauma over the years. We both experience similar issues and sometimes need a trigger warning or our day is ruined. We want to accommodate all of you. This is not meant to be snarky or sarcastic. It is a blanket warning. We will soon have independent reviewers determining the number and types of possibly triggering discussions. Timestamps and detailed info will be supplied below each video and audio file. One of our guiding principles is error correction. Let us know how we can make this a better experience for you, and we will do our best to accommodate you. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and we appreciate that you've traveled life's highway.
The Brian and Wolfgang Show. The record store that turned into a podcast. Crafting an Intentional Life, an essay by Brian Davis.
When I was a small child,
Crafting an
I witnessed
Intentional
an
Life.
encounter
When I
that
was
has
a small
grown in
child,
significance over the years. I don't know how I was when the
I'm not sure how old I was when the real event occurred. Young enough to be holding my father's hand, so possibly 5 or 6.
When I was a small child, I witnessed an encounter that has grown in significance over the years. I'm not sure how old I was when the real event occurred. Young enough to be holding my father's hand, so possibly 5 or 6. In my memories of that encounter, I was with my dad on a trip to what I think was an appliance store on a sunny weekend, and we approached a man who worked in the store. As the memory goes on, my dad spoke and the salesman looked confused, and my dad repeated himself. "Sorry, I don't understand," the salesman said. My dad repeated himself again and again, and this went on long enough for my child self to get very confused and then frustrated until I finally spoke up. Looking directly at the salesman, he said, whatever my dad had been repeating, which I have never remembered. "Oh," the salesman said, "right this way." I distinctly remember being extremely confused by the fact that the salesman understood me when all I did was repeat the exact words my dad had said again and again, just a few moments earlier. That confusion, induced by witnessing that moment of non-communication between two people speaking the same language, sparked in me an all-consuming curiosity, a need to understand the nature of the world around me. In that moment, the world I knew, the warmth and safety of my father's hand, my admiration of his awesomeness, conflicted with another world represented by the salesman, in which my father was unknown. My world was defined by the meaning I attached to words and the words I attached to things. I could not reconcile how my repetition of my father's words somehow carried meaning that had been elusive when those same words had been spoken by my father. In that moment, I realized there were multiple realities, where words didn't always mean the same thing. Meaning did not exist on its own, but somehow I had the power to speak a truth that resonated across realities. I started to see that for many of us, truth was just an accepted set of inputs, meaning just what we believed, and reality was the physical outcome of the world around us. What truth, then, do our memories hold? Over my life, in my introspective moments, I have revisited the memory of that encounter many times. Sometimes the memory would reaffirm my understanding of how I felt the universe works. That there is a strong relationship between information, meaning, and knowledge. But sometimes the memory would lead me to new conclusions about how everything works. A glimpse of a higher level of abstraction, like the shadows on Plato's wall. I would emerge from my recollection, freed from the cave, and see that all knowledge already existed in the universe, and we only needed to learn how to perceive it. Before I go on, I want to point out that I am aware of the malleability of memory, that every time we recall a memory, it is changed in some way. Before I go on, I want to point out that I am aware of the malleability of memory, that every time we recall a memory, it is changed in some way. First, part of this story is about the mutability of meaning and how that is a beneficial property of the universe. True knowledge comes when we can continuously update what we believe to be true. Secondly, the true value of this anecdotal memory is that it serves me as a sort of memory palace, a mental construct that I use to store away my ideas about the nature of the universe. The simple act of recalling this memory focuses my mind on a specific type of introspection, one focused on resolving all information into a unified theory of our shared reality. Through this introspection, I have come to realize that I am equally malleable. By allowing meaning to change, my personality changes, and so does my reality. Like the ship of Theseus, whose every piece was replaced over the years of journeys, I am always new, but always me.
Over the years, I'm not sure how old I was when the real event was young enough to behold.
Through recollection, the small child who witnessed the non-communication has mutated into one that understands that the salesman had a more rigid idea of spoken English. This understanding extends the relationship between meaning and expectations. Habits and expectations go hand in hand, so to explore human behavior, one needs to understand human expectations. Exploring the memory of that encounter, I came to realize that most human expectations are front-loaded. These expectations are the projection of already held beliefs painted on the world with a wide brush using broad strokes. Like rose-tinted glasses, our brains use our beliefs to filter information being received. If it doesn't match our brushstrokes, it doesn't get in. At some point, we stop exchanging information with the world and only allow ourselves to see what we already know. In my teens, my search for meaning led me to Buddhism, which in turn enlightened me to modes of thinking that kept my mind open to information from both the physical and the socially constructed. This is not an act of proselytization. In fact, my knowledge of Buddhism has led me to see the function of other religions and spiritual practices as error correction and coordination systems. But the pitfall of believing we have found the truth. Belief can become rigid, and as we humans move away from malleable beliefs, we lose the ability to see possibilities for improving our lives. The idea of dichotomy, as I have described it, exists in many religions, but in the modern world, the practical applications have been obfuscated by believing for belief's sake. In the Quran, jihad refers to the struggle with the lower self. It has been co-opted by those who wish to reform parts of the world into projections of their lower selves. The Japanese Zen term kaizen, which literally means to seek good change, has been reduced in the West to the Toyota method of process improvement. Mindfulness, which has become ubiquitous with a self-care industry that thrives on westernizing foreign spirituality, is a mental discipline that is the result of several practices which include meditation and controlled breathing. If a person masters mindfulness, they can turn off the mental projections and see the world as it is without them. This may sound bleak, but it is only in the moment of understanding the world without us that we can understand the possibilities we can bring forth. As an adult, I have been searching for validation of the methods I've discovered for leading a better life. To me, it is tacit knowledge, difficult for me to explain to others. I have come to see that all mechanisms of error correction rely on being open to information and feedback. Some evaluation process. When it comes to individual decision-making, I have learned 2 simple tools for improving the outcome. First, learn to love your future self. Picture your efforts in service of your future self. Your future self may also be your future partner, your future child. Second, imagine how your actions might affect future you. With some practice, you may find yourself making more and more decisions that have a longer positive impact on your future. With some practice, you may find yourself making more and more decisions that have longer positive impacts on your future.
Heavy metal. This is from Destroy All Monsters.
It's hard to tell what it is, but I think it's some kind of metal.
Okay, so not to conflate Satan with metal music, but you know, I mean, people do it all the time, so I'm gonna do it too. Anyway, so I know these guys and these women, and they dress in black, and they get together, and they do rituals. Sometimes they get together and do the rituals. Mostly they do them alone, actually. But they get together online and have a community of supportive, loving, helpful, wonderful people. And they are all getting their shit together. And they're helping each other do it. And they're wonderful people. I have met some of the most brilliant and beautiful people in this. It's called the Sober Faction. It's a group of people, and they're so wonderful. And I made a little something with one of their members. And this describes their tenets, the 7 tenets that they try to live by. There are 7 fundamental tenets. 1. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. 2. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. 3. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. 4.
The freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forgo one's own. 5. Beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's own beliefs. 6. People are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. 7. Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word.
And there you have it. The 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple. There's your scary boogeyman. Are you scared? Doesn't sound scary to me. The Satanic Temple Sober Faction provides peer support recovery for addiction, free from the pseudoscience and superstitious dogma entrenched in most mainstream programs. Mission. The Satanic Temple Sober Faction is a peer support group that offers a satanic approach to recovery from addiction. Sober Faction meetings assist those who are suffering from addiction in finding sobriety without having to experience the burden of religious dogma and superstition. The Satanic Temple Sober Faction creates an allyship program that consists of peers in recovery, working through the 7 rituals together, offering support, mutual guidance, and friendship without judgment and hierarchy. The allyship program differs from common sponsorship-style step recovery mentorships in that there is no teacher-student dichotomy. All are students as well as teachers within ally partnerships, learning from and guiding each other as needed. Our lives are iterative processes. And one of the ideas we want to explore in this show is error correction in life. Every day we get up, we do pretty much the same thing over and over again every day. And sometimes we get stuck in ruts, doing the same stuff that hurts us every day, the same stuff that is a mistake or makes our lives more difficult. And I know this sounds like some self-help BS, but it's not really. It's punk rock. Something goes wrong, the next time you try to do it correctly or in a better way. You try to improve it. And that's a big point of this show, is error correction. And I want to tell you a story about an error that was made. Or was it? Or was it? So, our Stevie Moore, the godfather of home recording, as they call him, who has released approximately 400 albums, 400. And still no one knows who he is, relatively, because he has, I was going to say autism, but integrity. And he wants to do things his own way. Anyway.
And he does.
So, I'm a big fan. He changed my life when I was turned on to him. Anyway, so when Facebook first started up, they did this thing where they had you put a quote in that you loved. Is there a quote you love? And then they would put it under your name. So I used an Oblique Strategies card from the Brian Eno and Peter Schmidt. Is that his name?
Like tarot cards for the studio.
Yeah, Peter Schmidt thing. it was my favorite, which is honor thy error as a hidden intention. And anyway, a while later, our Stevie Moore released an album called Errorism. And I was erroneously quoted in the liner notes instead of Brian Eno with honor thy error as a hidden intention. Now, I don't know if our Stevie Moore did that on purpose or if it was an accident, and I hesitate to ask him because I'm afraid he'll take it off the album.
Right. And I haven't bought a copy yet.
But I want to get his voice in here telling us. Maybe he'll be on an episode soon, or maybe he'll just give us a voice message now.
I sure
Who
hope
knows?
so.
Anyway, thank you for listening to this story. It's hilarious to me.
It's true.
And you should all go listen to our Stevie Moore and buy a bunch of cassettes and CDs and vinyl because he is one of the greats of all time.
One of the
on the
best
level of Bach and the Beatles and the Carpenters
and Andy Partridge,
Gang of Four and all of
Judy
it.
Sill,
So anyway,
he's magic.
go get more our Stevie Moore.
Get more our
Because he's a wizard and so are you.
Hey, have you noticed? There are noticed.
Okay, I'm getting ready to call Jamie Panzer while recording, and I'm going to tell him right away, of course. Okay, here we go. Okay, can I still check? 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Shit. Hello? Hello? I feared yesterday, and it must be dust or smoke that's in my eyes. How can I cry about something from someone that I won't see? All my friends all say she had her chance. Let's go shoot some.
Leave a message, please.
Hey Jamie, it's Wolfgang. I need to talk to you about that.
Whiskey cures, but the pain endures. Now I'm feeling the pain. I put my pride in my pocket. That's how I spend.
Yeah, this Apple noise canceling shit is scary. It could be used to censor people. Anyway, so I'm here with Jamie Panzer. I just wanted to record your voice. So you were saying you do have a file ready.
Almost ready.
Awesome.
It will be ready by the end of the month.
Oh man, I need it by the end of the hour or day.
What month is this?
June.
This is August, right?
July. No, you're hurting my creativity gland. You're hurting my creativity gland. Anyway,
I didn't know there was such a gland.
I just invented it, and everything I do, everything I.
The gland of the lost.
So that was, it's funny. That was Holly was the girl, and the boy was William, I believe. But that's what this woman told me, who I used to work with at Reproduction Specialties in the printing department. She ran the color stuff there.
It's actually
Sean,
Will.
I think.
His name was actually Will.
We called ourselves Land of the Lost
better.
because of that. Or she said that his name was
And
William.
because we were lost.
And we called certain people Sleaze, of course.
I know not what you speak.
Oh, I thought you knew Land of the Lost. It was like a dumb... Oh, you're right. I forget. You're 10 years older than I am.
Yeah, I think I just missed that.
Yeah.
Sleaze is familiar to me. I've heard it used, the word.
Yeah.
But wasn't that another Stephen King book or something?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, so thanks for letting me record you. I can't wait to finish your piece. And I just figured out a way to get Andy Partridge from XTC on the show to make an episode with me. And I'm going to invite all of my XTC friends.
That's
fans.
right.
I'm super excited. What I'm doing is he did a solo thing, which was like a dub project where he took the isolated drums from Drums and Wires, and he did these amazing pop things. Have you ever heard Mr. Partridge, Lure of Savage, Takeaway?
No.
Okay, they're amazing. And what I did is I downloaded the isolated drum tracks from Black Sea, and I'm going to make something I'm calling, I don't remember what I'm calling it. It's some, thing. Hold on. It's, I'm calling it Mr. Cartridge, Fake Array, The Door of Damage. So I'm making the sequel to his dub thing, and that's how I'm going to attempt to get him on the show.
Where do you get these isolated tracks?
Just search on
like
YouTube.
fanboy pages or
Yeah, on
just general
YouTube.
kind of things? Do they have
It was
for all kinds of music, I would imagine?
Yeah, man, I've seen all kinds of stuff. It was recommended by YouTube to me, and I was like, oh my god, I know, because I was going to go through R. Stevie Moore to see if I could get to him, and I've asked R. Stevie Moore to contribute to this episode, and I took this thing where I took a part of his poem and pretended like it was him talking to me. Anyway, but yeah, I'm hoping that Andy Partridge will hear this and be like, okay, yeah, this is a cool project, because I really think we can do some amazing stuff. If I can, manage to get my fucking teeth fixed and keep this house. Anyway. So, how are you doing now?
Our lives, our lives are iterative processes. And one of the ideas we want to explore on this show is error correction in life. Every day we get up, we do pretty much the same thing over and over again every day. And sometimes we get stuck in ruts, doing the same stuff that hurts us every day, the same stuff that is a mistake or makes our lives more difficult. And I know this sounds like some self-help BS, but it's not really. It's punk rock. Something goes wrong, the next time you try to do it correctly or in a better way. You try to improve it. And that's a big point of this show, is big error correction. One of the main focuses of this show, or a guiding principle.
So I'd like to start with a story that I call of shamans and kings. It's a story about me in a past life, or somebody that I think is just like me. This guy lived with a village of people somewhere in the past before we discovered agriculture. And he was not your typical guy in the village. He didn't do the manly things like going on the hunting trips and competing with guys for status. He liked to go out and explore nature and observe the world. And when other men went out hunting, he built traps and picked herbs and watched the animals and listened to the streams and the leaves blowing in the wind. And after a while, he started to realize that everything he saw in nature told him something about what could happen in the world. And when he came back at night and returned to his village, and people had problems, he could take the information that he was given from the world and apply it to their problems and find solutions. And if the kid was sick, he could mash up his herbs and take away the pain. And when people were hungry, he'd go to his traps and bring back food. So he provided more solutions and fed more people than the other men combined. And after a while, the entire village came to depend on him for food and their well-being and answers to all the questions that they couldn't answer themselves. And because they relied on him, they started giving him gifts. They would share foods and share clothes and build houses and give him whatever he needed, which gave him more free time to spend more time observing the world. And eventually he married and had some kids, and he took his kids with him when he went out in the woods. And they watched him observe the world and learned to see how he saw the world. And after many years, he died. But his children had even more wisdom through his teachings than he had gathered in his lifetime. And their village flourished and grew, and word of his family grew, and his family became synonymous with wisdom and food and solutions and solving all the problems and answering all the questions that people had for as far as the eye could see. And this went on for many lifetimes. His children and their children all learned the same wisdom and was able to pass it on again and again to their kids. Well, finally, after several generations of this, a child was born into the family who just didn't have what it takes to learn anything from the world. And he enjoyed the lifestyle that being a child of this family gave him, where he didn't have to work. People took care of his needs and provided housing and worshipped him. And he just took advantage of it. And he did a half-assed job finding solutions and providing for his village. But by this time, after decades of following his family, no one even knew why they followed the family anymore. They just knew that this family was the family that everybody paid tribute to and did what they said. So this child stopped going out into the world to learn anything but still had all the power. And his children continued to be vested with the same privileges and power that his great forefathers had gained through their attainment of wisdom. There needs to be a mechanism put in place that verifies that the meaning being placed on something still has value. 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 Still has value.
Keep your contact lenses crystal clear and see the wicked way the after smoke shoots high and levels out at your hairline. Be quite careful not to offend observers. Your fellow radio listeners are capable of jumping the yellow spaces if unoccupied. Are you not tripping?
Nope.
What a surprise. Oh well. Hi.
Hi.
Let's think about the next.
Okay. Well, that cleared things right up. Thank you, R. Stevie Moore.
I could be your lover. Think how you would feel.
That's all I'm going to be able to think about now. Now, here's Jamie Panzer's Dark Vision. The music you hear contains real pain. Jamie was getting out of bed and he groaned. He made this song and called it Full Grown. Here's his vision, his idea. As stated in the beginning of the podcast, trigger warning, this contains stuff from real life. So if you have an aversion to anything in life, please consider not listening to this. It may be disturbing.
Upsetting reality. I suppose this idea could work out in a standard joke form with a punchline, but I get the feeling it would be a lot more intriguing, engaging, and palpable if it was fleshed out a bit. But that's where I get held up with the fleshing out bits. Fundamentally, I think it's a what-if scenario. One I don't think too many people have contemplated, so it should come as a surprise. So maybe it goes something like this. Protagonist of the story, guy, girl, upon becoming conscious or regaining consciousness from a place that they have no recollection of whatsoever, but they're overwhelmed by a feeling of peace and tranquility. Let's say it could be a Garden of Eden type of environment. And he's there and suddenly greeted by others who come out of the woods or whatever. And he's astounded at meeting these people, instant connection with everyone. But as then it seems obvious, couldn't help but asking how he got there. Is this heaven or where is it? I mean, he has no recollection of who he is or, his place in life. But again, just to emphasize how good he's feeling and how happy he seems to be having arrived in this place. Anyway, he's informed that no, it's not heaven as you knew it, but it is the afterlife, or an afterlife, your afterlife, and it's your afterlife for one reason and one reason only, that you committed suicide to get here. In fact, nobody gets here unless they take their own life. Unless they see the absolute absurd suffering caused by the previous life, which is really just a test. One doesn't achieve this nirvana without seeing the folly, staying in a place that is so keen to repeatedly inflict pain upon you.
Okay, so this is religion, the part where I do error correction and liner notes. I messed up and didn't get the error correction stuff ready, so I'm going to do the liner notes. All right, ready? Liner, okay, wait, so what I'm doing here, sometimes I'm talking, I'm just talking. And what I do is I just drop one of my songs. During the pandemic, I recorded about 1,000 pieces of music, and it's all this like kind of weird stuff, like music for films kind of stuff. I don't know, ambient, ripping Eno stuff. But I made an error in judgment. I was thinking people were going to like it and want to listen to it and buy it. And Brian finally said to me, "Look, man, no, people don't have a context for what you do." I didn't realize I was making that music for this. It was an error in my thinking. So that's how I do it. I drop a track in and then I start talking over it. Sometimes I do write some stuff, but I think it's a real error to rely on that, because I believe that the written word makes us conformist. And it really does. If you look at the printing press, every letter is the same, moving in the same direction, relentlessly, on and on and on and on, just like me. Sorry. So I'm going to read these liner notes now after I pause this and drop a track in. Yep, I didn't have the microphone plugged in, but
same here.
I sure picked a good track for the background that's going to annoy the shit out of some people who prefer silence or just nature sounds or whatever in their podcasts.
It's just
Anyway, so let's do these liner notes. So, all right. Track 1, Egret 0, Spine and Flutter. That's a Kel Smith creation, largely or completely. Track 2, William Wolfgang Allen, Zanja, of which I have dozens. It's a song that I'm doing. Okay, there was this thing, and it was like, can't remember what it's called.
It's called the Disquiet Junto.
And it's a thing where they do thing every week. They have an assignment. They say, okay, do this, do that musically. And this one week it was make a national anthem for a country that doesn't exist. So I thought of this planet from this science fiction story I'm working on. And anyway, I named it Zanja, and I've been doing this song over and over again. And if I do this, the liner notes will be a half hour long, so I'm not going to do this. Okay, track 3 by me, Snakes in the Basement. That's a make noise synthesizer piece.
Gotta have those guys.
The bumper transition, written and performed by Rocky Jones. Track 4, Colors of Deb, my sister. That was me attempting to do sonic portraiture of her. Track 5, The Dual Anubis, reaction to Alex Layne's story. I performed that live while listening to him retell the story of his experience. So that was me. Track 6, The Tilted Uncles. That was me. Track 7, Reverence for the Spent Capacitor. Track 8, A Living Reflection of the Lesser Lights, which I played on Frank Kirchman's Gibson Les Paul. Thank you, Frank. I love you. And your whole family. Anyway.
Well, maybe not your whole family. The ones I
After
know.
that was More Psychic Geometry by me. Sky Escalator by me. And during that part, I'm tripping, and I said something about Velvet Darkness, and I was like, that's an Alan Holdsworth album that isn't really an Alan Holdsworth album because he didn't want it released, but this record company, I forget what they were called, were just like, we're just going to release this, and I didn't think it was, it's not really Holdsworth to me because I started with road games and I wanted more of that because I was a greedy teenager. Anyway, where were we? Track 11, A Walk with Roman. Roman was a dog.
I loved him.
He was so
I still do.
beautiful. A bull mastiff, and I walked him for many years,
Best
almost
boy.
every day.
I loved
And he got old and he died, and I lost a friend. It happens to me a lot in this line of business, in the line of business of a pet sitter, which is what I do and have done for the last 20 years or so. I love you, Roman. And Kelly, I love you too. Hope I get to see you sometime. Then after that, track 12, Zanja Improv. Track 13, Destroy All Metal.
With sample intro from Rocky Jones.
Track 14, The Seven Tenets by the amazing Tom Wilde.
This guy.
And me. I cannot wait to have him on the show. I have a feeling we're going to have to do a 4-hour episode.
8 hour.
Just him.
12
he
hours.
is amazing.
24 hours.
Anyway,
48.
track 15, Domestic Ambient. Intro Daybreak by me.
And if that sounds, if that part, if you notice that I was badly singing I've Been the One by Little Feet, but the Golden Palominos version with Sid Straw singing, and you think maybe I'm pandering to Sid Straw and the Bird and the Bee,
to come on to the show to make an episode like this with me, or at least a segment, you'd be right. Because I want Sid Straw. We met in Baltimore. And I got you to dinner with us for brick oven pizza, and I freaked out. And I didn't freak out, but I was very geeky. But I did freak out inside when I realized that I was eating dinner with Sid Straw and Peter Blackvad. Anyway, but yeah, and Bird and the Bee, you are so important to me. Oh my God, so much of your music, but recreational love. Oh, my landlord. And the fact that you haven't covered sacred songs yet, I want to talk you into doing it with me because I can do some Fripp stuff. Anyway, all right. Love you guys. Thanks. 16 Christmas 2020 for Nathan Bell. You inspired me, big man. A whole segment of my music is inspired by you. And it was just this one moment in a song that showed me a complete vista. I saw a street in a desert town and a blue sky with these mountains, and oh man, it was so beautiful. And it was all from the sound that you made.
Right.
You put that movie in my head. Holy fuck. Anyway, where was I? Then I went from that to Wizards Everywhere by me. Domestic ambient.
No, that's actually Wizard Spasm.
Intro, Daybreak
Wizard
Again.
Spasm remix, and then the ambient.
Of Shamans and Kings by Brian Davis and Wolfgang. That is our first artistic project together.
Finally.
We've never made a song.
Nope.
He bought a guitar and it sits in the case.
And I'm gonna steal it.
I'm
gonna steal that fucking guitar.
Anyway.
And then I'm gonna give it to his
So that's
kids.
it. And except for one more, which is what we're listening to now. It's another incredible Kel Smith
Egret Zero
creation.
The amazing Kel
It's
Smith.
under the Egret Zero umbrella.
A humanitarian.
And this is called Exploring Shackleton.
Yeah, Shackleton.
And it's from the album
Exploring Shackleton.
I think it's the same name.
Oh my God.
I forget my band's album names. That's messed up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's Exploring
Thank
Shackleton.
you
Exploring
for listening. Come back again. It'll be different. It'll be the same. It'll be about people you might know. It might be about you.
That's right.
So, this is a giant collaborative art project. We want to have people do puppet shows and make comic book film strips and animations and claymation and maybe.
And films.
And I want to work with some puppeteers in Baltimore if I can get their attention.
Puppeteer.
And a human in Texas who makes amazing puppets. And our friend and a stalwart, constant, contributor to the show, the Rocky Jones.
Rocky Joe.
He is a born puppeteer. He can turn anything into a puppet, man. From a Kleenex to a puppet.
To a rock. Yeah,
anyway. So I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for listening. This is very exciting.
Yep.
I feel like we're going to do some wonderful stuff together, and we're going to become filthy rich.
That's
so
the
we
fantasy.
Can give
That's
it
the
all
fantasy.
away to
give it
people
all away
who
and help
need it.
people.
It'll be
and
fucking
model that,
awesome.
Yeah, and model
they'll
that
kill
behavior
me.
for the world.
They'll be like, we can't have that behavior being modeled in front of impressionable
I spent my
people.
childhood giving my toys away, and it was
That's
a
it.
wonderful feeling.
Wolfgang signing off.
Signing off.
The Brian and Wolfgang Show.
And Wolfgang Show.
The record store that turned into a podcast.
And of course I'm not done because I want to do some error correction.
And so when I was talking about the Satanic Temple, I said men and women. There are men and women, but there are also people who do not identify as either one. And that's one thing. And there's all kinds of stuff. But what I really want to talk about is what we are going to do. Now, the next episode I'm working on is going to be about the vision for this whole project. I know that there hasn't been much related to what I'm talking about yet. I realize that. And I'm doing it out of order. I'm autistic, and I always give like these big chunks of information without providing the proper context first, and people think I'm crazy, or I'm weird, or they just can't understand me. And there's a good reason for that. It's because I'm giving information out of order. And in the neurotypical world, people expect you to be neurotypical and communicate like a neurotypical person, but I don't. And I apologize for any inconvenience, but here we go. So look, this is something that we're going to do. Okay, I have to, let me do that real quick. I just had to save the file. Okay, so I've got this idea. Well, Brian and I have this idea. Now, Brian is a computer programmer, among many things. He's a multi-brain like I am. We go beyond polymath into multi-brain. And we'll talk about that. But he's building a wiki. It's a private wiki for the show and for the project and the people involved in it. Now, and it's going to be connected to a database. We're going to record Zoom calls that we have with each other and then do like speech to text conversion, and then we're going to put that in there, and so we'll be able to look up anything. So everything will be linked. So we'll be able to go, what was that guy's name? What was this? What was that? And search it. Now, we also have asked for all of your help. People who worked at the store, people who are friends of ours, people who shopped in the store, people who were in DC bands and Baltimore punk bands, and people from bands all over the world. And you don't have to be someone who was around in the 90s, but if you have stories relating to that stuff or relating to something we're talking about, we want to hear from you. Now, we want to hear from everybody. And we want your criticism, we want your support, we want your praise, we want your ideas. But one thing we're going to do is this. There are going to be certain people, because Brian is so busy right now, I've barely been able to pin him down for a phone call for the last 2 weeks. And he's dealing with a bunch of plumbing problems and trying to get a new job and all this stuff. So, and he's got 2 kids living at home still, and he's also very shy about talking about his ideas because he also has trauma around not being understood and being treated poorly because people don't understand him. Now, that's a big part of the project, is trying to get people to understand Brian's very important ideas. We feel that they're more than just cool ideas. We think they're important for the world, or they could be, if we can present this in the right way. So what we're doing is there are going to be people who are our friends from through the years, and we're going to start a council of elders and youngers, because our children are wise too, and we're going to have Zoom calls, and we're going to invite these certain core people, and we're going to select them over time, and it's going to probably keep changing. And we're going to have Zoom calls, and we're going to have them say, okay, I liked this about the show. I didn't like this. I didn't like this. I liked this. And maybe you should make it shorter. Maybe you should make it longer. Maybe it shouldn't be episodes at all, but and this was a Brian idea. How about having all the segments cut up separately? Then we'll put them in some big mixing thing, like a Spotify thing where you can remix it, kind of like that They Might Be Giants song. Fingertips. Anyway, so there's a lot. So we're going to be inviting a lot of you to come along and be, involved in this in a more major and direct way if you have the time and the interest. And I feel like Roland Deschain in the Dark Tower and in a gunfight, and he's like, gunslingers, to me. And that's what I feel like, because all of you that I'm talking to, and you know who you are, even if I've never met you, you know I'm talking to you. We all seek the tower. We're interested in things, and we are seeking the larger answers.
Or the peace that comes of knowing there are
the
no
myths
answers.
and the magic that we have been told about our entire lives. And we want your help. Whether you are Stephen King, whether you are Joe Hill, his son, whether you are Neil Gaiman, whether you are Ian Mackay or Henry Rollins or Fred Armisen and Carrie, don't remember your last name, sorry, whether you're, and especially, these are the people we really want. Nobodies, people who are just nobodies, and because they make the world go round, and they're nobodies. Everyone is a nobody until they're a somebody. And here's the thing: nobodies are more important than the famous people, in so many ways. Although the famous people, many of them are our teachers, because I have learned from so many of the people who I look up to and listen to the music of and look at the art of and watch the films of. Anyway. So that's a little bit, and I actually am going to stop talking now, and I apologize for any errors, and I know I didn't correct any errors in this. And by the way, I have a recording from Alex Layne, who was in Reptile House and Pottymouth and Runway Model and other bands, and he's a friend, and I love him dearly. And I have a recording of him kind of giving a little bit more information about Reptile House. And here it is. I'm recording now, so tell me what I got wrong about, or what the Wikipedia article said wrong about the members of Reptile House.
Well, okay. Well, it's not in front of me, but I can say that they left out Joey Siri, who was the bass player, at least during the U.S. tour in 1985. Okay. He also might have played a few shows before and after, The guy, the other drummer besides London May, his name is Gary Brizet.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And how?
And then Lee Panlilio is the other guy.
Okay, Lee Panlilio.
And he's the other bass player.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the other bass player, or one of the other bass players.
Okay, so Lee Panlilio. Thank you for that. I couldn't figure it out. Yeah, and I did not know that Dave Rhodes was in Reptile House, weirdly, or didn't remember it. Isn't that weird?
You know what? Yeah, he was in there early on. I think maybe even had gotten. I mean, I was in another band before I went into that cult, and I think he was in Trud with me and Dan. But Dave Rhodes, this brings up a topic that just I really wanted to tell you about, and so this is cool.
Okay, we're still recording.
You're still recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that cool?
So when I was in the cult, and I still, I hadn't seen anybody for like 2 years, and I was hanging out with some people that I'd known there. And this was toward the end, and you had more privileges. You were allowed to do things, So one of these guys had the fucking Bouncing Babies record.
Whoa!
And I was like Reptile House, and I didn't know who that was at the time, but I did. But then when I saw the names, I was like, oh yeah, I know these guys. And then hearing like Dan's voice, I'm like, yeah, okay. And so that was my first time, and that's when. So I know Dave Rhodes was in Reptile House early on.
Okay, that's amazing.
Okay, so and I guess at that time London was the drummer, and Lee. Or wait, was it Lee? No, I think it was Dave Rhodes on Bouncing Babies. But I could be wrong. But Lee is on, of course, on that Discord, Stumble as the Crow Flies.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for that. Yeah, that Bouncing Babies thing, that has a bunch of great shit on it.
353, I loved that.
I was just
getting so much on there.
And my best friend, when he died, my best friend was Lou Giger from Braille Party. And yeah, and they're on there too. The song.
I'm gonna revisit that out. That's so cool, man. I look forward to revisiting that entire album.
Yeah, me too. And we're going to definitely have as much of 9353 on as we can. You know, I mean, hopefully Bruce will be interested. And, you know, so anyway.
I hope so.
I hope so. But anyway, all right, I'm going to stop recording.
Famous last words of Wolfgang. I'm going to stop recording. Now go listen to the Bouncing Babies compilation from whatever year it's from. You've got a Google. Use it. Anyway. And I'm sure there will be some sort of notes, so it'll have a link to it. Anyway, thanks everyone. I am actually shutting up right now in 4, 3, 2, 1.